Firstly, we do the prayers to renew our altruistic motivation, not only everything what we do, but particularly in trying to understand this chapter on wisdom to increase our wisdom in the correct application of altruism in what we do, what we say, and what we think and feel in everyday situation, with the touch of the wisdom, discerning this wisdom. So we do the prayers first. O fully enlightened, blessed ones, Buddhas dwelling in the 10 directions, Bodhisattvas and great Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 stages, great Vajrayana Gurus, please pay attention to me. Until the gaining Buddhahood, go for refuge in Buddhas. Also Dharma and Sangha, Bodhisattva assembly. Offer body also wealth, virtues, merits of 3 times, without any attachment for the sake of all beings. As also gathers, surpass, give rise to bodhicitta, learn Bodhisattva's precepts, and train stages in accord. For the sake of all beings, I embrace bodhicitta. Also learn to live by the precept stages in accord. O fully enlightened, blessed ones, Buddhas dwelling in the 10 directions, Bodhisattvas and great Bodhisattvas, abiding in the 10 stages, and great Vajrayana Gurus, please pay attention to me. Until gaining Buddhahood, go for refuge in Buddhas, also Dharma and Sangha, a Bodhisattva assembly. Offer body also well, the virtues, merits of 3 times, without any attachment for the sake of all beings, as also gathers or pass, give rise to bodhicitta, learn Bodhisattva precepts, and train stages in accord. For the sake of all beings, I embrace bodhicitta, also learn to live by the precept stages in accord. O fully enlightened, blessed ones, Buddhas dwelling in the 10 directions, Bodhisattvas and great Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 stages, great Vajrayana Gurus, please pay attention to me. Until gaining Buddhahood, go for refuge in Buddha, also Dharma and Sangha, Bodhisattva's assembly. Offer body also well, virtues and merits of 3 times, without any attachment for the sake of all beings, as also gather paths, give rise to bodhicitta, learn Bodhisattva precepts, and train the stages in accord. For the sake of all beings, I embrace bodhicitta, also learn to live by the precept stages in accord. Now I have reaped life's good fruit, for I have good human life. Born in the race of the Buddhas, become indeed Buddha's child. I, from now on, at all costs, hold legacy of this race. This false mendicant's race will never be polluted. In the front of guardian refuges, today I know all beings as my guests. Till they attain to gather stages, may the gods and demigods rejoice. May the excellent bodhicitta take birth who had not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase really without degeneration. May never part bodhicitta engage in bodhisattva's conduct, being guided bodhicitta's way. May I renounce all the evil deeds. In the heart of bodhisattva's mind, intend to help welfare beings. Whatever are wishes of the Lord, may all sentient beings attain them. May all beings possess happiness. May they desert all lower realms. Bodhisattvas abiding in the stages, fulfill prayers and their wishes. May they strive in all paramitas and never forget bodhicitta. May all obscurations and misdeeds become complete in its purity. So we're continuing the 9th chapter of the ultimate bodhicitta, which is the understanding of the view with which one practices altruism. Altruism or selflessness as a behavior through generosity, through tolerance. People do quite a lot of time, even without calling it bodhicitta. People do a lot of selfless things. You can see that in every situations. But one thing that makes their action or act of kindness do not benefit the other or themselves is clinging, is self-clinging to I and what the I did as some independently or truly existing. And therefore, when there is this I clinging, and then also it clings to objects, either discriminating because of attachment to the object, or discriminating against the object out of aversion. Or even the pleasant object of love to whom we do things fondly, but because of the object clinging, as the object is independently existing, and our grasping to that then spoils, destroys the very act of kindness, become cause of mutual entrapment and hurt and pain and resentment and discord. So this chapter is mainly called emptiness, because it's a wisdom how to prevent the practice of kindness not go without wisdom, but with wisdom. So the wisdom of discerning emptiness is not nihilism, but rather due to the greatness of wisdom, we do not abide, ignore doing things, due to the greatness of compassion, we have to be doing things. But what we do things should not be impinged by our weakness of wisdom that then makes us feel somewhat fatigued by the doing, The doing, it should liberate us, but we get attached to the outcome or expectation of it. So expectation of the outcome is object clinging. That means the subject clinging is there. And because with the subject self-clinging, the object clinging will not be there. So that's why this chapter is about how to understand the intersection of the doer and doing and the deed. But at the same time, not seeing the doer as something permanent. And so that's why this reading tonight will elucidate that. Maybe I will get each of you to take turn to read the verses, and then I go through the explanation. So verse number 71. Would you like to read?
I've got a different version, right?
Have you got a different version? Yeah, you can read a different version because everything is different. Nothing is real. Yeah.
So verse 71,
Mm-hmm.
it starts with, in square brackets, our response is, for both of us it is established that the action and the consequence of the action have a different location. Moreover, since the self does not have any function in this, surely arguing this point is irrelevant here.
Mm-hmm. Good. So this is talking about an action, the basis of the act and the result of the action are not the same, not identical. So there's no argument, because saying here in His Holiness Dalai Lama's commentary on that verse, he says, person at the time of performing an act and the person at the time of experiencing the result of the result exists at different times, and therefore are of different natures. So the person who performs an act and then receives the result, what we think is the same person reaping the result, reaping the result. So it says, we both agree, meaning the Madhyamika philosopher and his opponents. We both agree on this point. So, because others, the doer and the result, one who reaps the result, are two different things. We're talking about ultimately, Neither of us believe that the self that experienced the effect is the self that engaged in the action. So there's no point in debating on this issue. So there's that bit is agreed. Because if the person who performs the action in the conventional knowledge, what Buddhist teaching says, if you do this, you will experience that. We all fear that. We all usually fear the consequences of what we do will be reaped by the same person in this life, in next life, or maybe within 10 years, even what that. So in this kind of teaching on looking at the emptiness of the lack of inherently existing self, even the one who performs the act, performer of the act, is not independently performing the act. If the act is independently existing, it doesn't need performing, So because of the act and objects of act and the things that one uses to perform the act are all interdependently comprised. So therefore, even the doer, even the act that is executed by the person is not independently executed by him, It's dependent on many factors. So how could the same person who execute the act actually reap the result? They have totally different base. For instance, it will be in the next life, So therefore, the whole idea is that there isn't a permanent self that experiences the result. That's a little hard to understand, but let's move on. Can we get another one, maybe, to read the verse 72? Danny?
Cause, counterminus, with its result is something quite impossible to see, and only in the context of a single mental stream can it be said that one who acts will later reap the fruit.
Yeah. So what does this say is that at the very time that a cause is created, it is impossible for there to be experience of the effect of the result, effect of the cause. So the self that is designated upon a continuum of consciousness, when we say self, we are designated to continuum of consciousness. So in this way, one can say that in the previous life, I committed this action, and now experiencing this result. So the I is designated only to a stream of consciousness, but the I that experienced the result and I that previously performed are totally performed. One performed on that life, another experiencing this result. So we have the convention of designating I to the stream of consciousness. But that stream of consciousness is on a stream of consciousness. It is not a permanent self. The self that existed yesterday and self today are different. This is, we may think it's not, because that's the whole thing. We may think I'm the same person, even biologically maybe the same person, But we don't have such kind of momentary impermanence discerning mind, We are designating, and others also call us the same name, and we we didn't ever change a body also that much. Maybe few dried skin dropped away since yesterday to today, but otherwise yesterday's self passed. Today's self has newly arisen, but they're of the same continuum. Same mental continuum, Thus it is correct to say, today I experienced the result what I did yesterday. So the Buddhist concept of us experiencing result is mainly designated upon the idea that the stream of consciousness, but actually the physical body to which we recognize, which we think is yesterday's self is today, is actually, there's nothing identical about today's self that is yesterday's. It may have partial kind of a resemblance of it, but subtle changes that has gone through is therefore what was past is totally absent in the present. So talking about the subtle impermanence of the aggregate, subtle impermanence of aggregate, but because we have a kind of consciousness mind stream, because our mind is very idle in thinking it is different. We think it's the same person. I met you 10 years ago. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Both things is the same person. And because we are not interested in talking ultimate level, in the conventional level, we always talk in terms of deceptive truth level. This conventional level, of course, is only relative, isn't it? Relative. So therefore, but we take the relative too far. That's the whole thing. We take the relative too far. We think it's the same person. And that's why we couldn't let go or forgive somebody. We think it's the same person. He did this to me. And we think there's some kind of static, permanent him that did that, We don't realize the multitude of factors that wasn't him that also contributed that caused the doing. Because we never paid enough attention what other factors that has contributed to the person to that event to eventuate. Because we're so used to it. But when we are able to see the many factors that we still lump together and aggregate it as a same person, and then we are stuck. Our feelings are stuck, our emotions are stuck, our memory is stuck. We can't unstuck any of them. So the idea of wisdom of emptiness is not denying what it was perceived, but what was perceived before is only perception. Perception are impermanent and emptiness. Empty of particularly inherent existence of the self. Perception itself is empty. So how could it be? Perception itself is empty of the past. How could it be? How could it be revalidated that is already invalid before? Isn't it? All perception is emptiness, it says. So fact that what we perceive in the past has no validity to be continued. It's invalid, continue to stay invalid. So Buddhism is not arguing that after a stretch of time it become invalid. Even in real time it is invalid. Even in real time it's not perception, it's imperception. Well, if you perceive an object, and as soon as you see an object, you can see why the object is that. Object is not it from its own side. Object is designated by us. It's only through our designation then the object's perceptibility is coined. Objects has no objectiveness in itself except us putting the label, designating our designation of it. So therefore, the perception of the object is not as the object is. Object itself is empty of the perception, because it's empty of inherent perception. It could be perceived multifariously. It could be perceived differently by different people. One glass of water, we can drink it when we're thirsty. If we put a fish in it, it will swim in it, It will not, I don't know whether fish ever drinks water or not. It definitely seems like, we call them swims in it, but I think they lounge in it. They put their socks off and they just lounge like that. I don't know whether they think they're swimming or not. In the fish world, I don't think they'll call they're swimming. How could you be swimming all the time? I mean, we only swim maybe just half an hour, and after that we just had enough. You're looking for towel. But when we are in our living room, it's like for the fish in the water, it's like they are in their living room, But we don't see this fish in water as a living room. We try to go in the water like a fish, we get drowned. So don't try other people's living room. So this shows that perceived object itself, there and then in real time, is imperception. Now to perceive that in 10 years later as a result of that, thinking it is the same, it's just like reduplication of mistakes many times, manifold. And so therefore, from the ultimate point of view, it's talking about the emptiness of self, and therefore empty of inherent existence of the action. That is permanent action and permanent the result of expiation. And only in a conventional, it is correct to say that we experience the outcome of what we did 10 days ago. Like people get only paid fortnightly, for instance. Only after 2 weeks working they get paid. And of course that's a convention, and nobody can deny that. So therefore, people say after all that hard effort, then they get something. That's only in a relative level. Ultimate level, there's no self that is permanent to claim what it did in the past. There was no self in the past, let alone one who will claim later. I mean, how could there be a claimer of a deed of a non-existing past self? So when you're talking about emptiness of self, we're also talking about the emptiness of its actions. Because remember this here Shantideva's writing is going on about the how to empty the self of form, in feeling, in action. This particularly we're reading right now in terms of the actions, failures, success, whatever we do or other people do, when we think it's them, they did it to us, or we think we failed, or we did it all on our own, that kind of grasping to the outcome of supposedly a permanent past self that now claims the result is indeed a wrong view. That is the cause of samsara. That is the cause of some. In conventional level, of course, that's the only way that this conventional we call relative worldly beings. Worldly beings. Conventional means worldly beings. Worldly beings operate on that level, that basis. But we are talking about how not to take it to extreme level. On a relative level, it is like that, but on ultimate level, that is it is not that case. Okay. Next one. 73.
Thoughts now past and those to come are not the self. They are no more, or are not yet. And in them the self of the thought which now is born. If so, it sinks to nothing when the latter fades.
Yeah, so that's really self-explanatory. It says, we have thoughts now, and then if you have a thought, if you just witness a thought, and that thought passes away, and then there are thoughts that will come about, no doubt, within a few seconds, a few minutes, but neither the past thoughts nor the future thoughts are self, So this try to, it's not denying the existence of thoughts, by the way, but denying the existence of independent self, But so, as long as we can identify thought, then you can see the self is not thought, Because self has past thoughts, but thought has past thoughts, future thought, present thoughts. But self doesn't look like past self, future self, present self. We always think the self is independently one, We don't say, oh, this my past self did it. We say, I did it. It's amazing, We never say, my past self did this, but the present one don't want to have anything to do with it. There's this innate feeling that there is one and what they call unitary self, independent, inherently existing self. This is the wrong view, of course, wrong view. So therefore, the thought about the past or the future, however many thoughts arise, they are not only different, but they're never identical. So therefore, but they are not self. They no past self are not past thought are not self. No, the present thought are not self, and they are not. They are no more, or are not yet. So therefore, there is nothing more to add to the thought, than just that. No, there's anything that can be, that will take a great substance, that will become a great substance to be yielded from the thought. So there is then the self, the thought, which now is born. So is it the self? This is this very present. If it's not the past or not the future thought, then is it the present thought that is the self just sprang up, spring. If so, meaning if this present thought is the self, it sinks to nothing when later fades. Yeah. So then again, this very idea of thought of now also, you couldn't, when you pay attention to the now, it also has faded away. So this ever rising, abiding and fading thought is only ever rising and abiding and fading thought. The self is not identical. None of these are self. So what it's trying to say is that, but yet we grasp to the idea, that was my thought. That was my idea. Originally, it's my idea. We have this sense of ownership of this thought as if something that is there to held onto. But actually, if the present thought itself fades into nothing, what is there to become ours? And who is the possessor? If the possess is the thought, if the possess is the thought, then who is the possessor? So, because it's talking about the emptiness of volition of the thoughts. This is talking about emptiness of volition of the thoughts. Emptiness of the volition of the thoughts. Emptiness of volition of thought doesn't mean there are no useful thoughts that you can author and you can engage and you can actualize. There are dependently existing thoughts. Dependently existing thoughts, like wholesome thoughts, and kind thoughts, you can cultivate. But importantly, however carefully crafted, positive, wholesome, kind thoughts you create, but you got to know that is not self. That is just a thought. And because it is a thought, because it is thought, it is not unitarily existing. It's not independently existing. Meaning it's not wholly existing from its own side. Thought usually have an object of thought, and so on. So therefore, it is not independently, unitarily existing thought. It is not permanent, and it is not unitary, and it is not independent. So what it is? It is interdependently produced thought. But self doesn't look like interdependently produced. It looks like innate, independently existing. So this idea of false notion, the self is thought, has to be understood. If you do this, then you actually can meditate on the witnessing the rising of the thoughts and fading of the thoughts. So what they call watching the watcher. In the meditation, that's what we try to do. And so the I, the kind of provisional I that witnesses the fading of the thought, is none other than the emptiness of the self. Yeah? So because of the emptiness of self, it sees the fading of the thought. If it's a truly existing, you can't have something fade that is permanently existing thing. Permanently existing thing, yeah? So it's a very,
So those thoughts that are of a harmful or painful or dark nature, that can rise unexpectedly. For example, maybe someone might use words to write their feelings in a journal to help them to express their feelings. Is that okay to do? Or?
It is okay to write, but we are always writing in the sky all the time. I don't know whether it helps to write on paper or not, but we're always writing, always writing. That's the problem. We're always writing our thoughts. We always sort of try to read the thoughts and try to make a, and so of course then is because realizing, okay, after 2 days you wrote, 2 days after you read it, you felt good when you wrote it, but after you read it, probably that's it. Now you don't need to keep those writing, shred it, and maybe burn it, and no longer. Okay, you've expressed all your thoughts, but it is really nothing there, but a lot of thoughts about the past. But the past itself is not there. So what is the writing is all about? And so therefore, one should learn to see the fading of the thoughts, do not, because our suffering is only a thought, subsequent cognizing attachment to past thoughts, objects of thoughts, and suffering is mainly a bad thoughts, badly constituted thoughts. So that's why the meditation, meditating on the thought is mind only, really, usually thought only. Firstly, you try to see your thought, and then later on you realize that those thoughts are concerning past or future or people or things or events. But the events are not there, but thoughts are still there. So therefore, it's not really the events that is the thought. It's the thought about the events. So thought about the events. So therefore, if there's dark thoughts, it's not really the dark events. It's the thought about that event has made many times darker and darker without learning to fade them away. Without learning to let go, without learning how to empty those thoughts.
That's because they're
they're clinging
by emotion.
They are clinging. Yeah, they're clinging to the emotion and thoughts and perceptions. Because one thinks, it's my experience, they say. I experienced these, they say. They don't realize their experience itself is badly constructed, poorly, wrongly constructed. They don't realize the experience itself is poorly constructed. And from this teaching point of view, of course, this is in a dualistic, deluded world would say, yeah, I saw him do that to you or whatever, We say that, isn't it? And so therefore we that kind of dualistic treatment is that we ascribe to the person's experience entirely what we think he did to her or they did to him. We don't see the interdependence of the perception of the person. They think what the perception is inadequately correct. They think the perception is adequately correct. They don't realize perception itself is due to obscuration. Maybe the perception itself is obscured. Perception itself is obscured. So the thought about the objects or experience itself is obscured. If the thought about the experience is valid, then why if it's valid, then it is permanent or impermanent? Even though the thought perception of that is there, but still it's not happening now. So it's only in the head, only in the thought. It's only in the thought that's happening. So it's not the object or events or other kind of role, other things that play the role to make the experience at the time, but why we have the subsequently cognizing mind that actually able to see all in the mind only. So that shows the grasping and clinging, I clinging, and wrong view of the self clinging clinging as self, and anything what one sees as truly existing. Because the eye clinging, therefore it sees others' perception as truly existing, phenomena as truly existing, and this therefore doesn't allow them to see the impermanence of it or emptiness of it. So they become somewhat dangled with the thought, and this is why it's not. One should know that it is interdependently originated, rather than it's only mind only. If it says it's a mind only, then there is that level of problem stays. Okay, next verse.
Skip one more.
What number is it again?
74.
For instance, we only may take banana trees, cutting through the fibres, finding nothing. Likewise, analytical investigation will find no I, no underlying self.
Yeah, so that's that's pretty self-explanatory. Everybody knows that, isn't it? Yeah? If, for instance, we can use the banana trees, because banana tree is usually considered to be a little hollower than other trees, little easier to take into pieces than other trees. Cutting through the fibers, finding nothing. When you take off the bananas outer thing, and then you there isn't anything so solid as that tree itself looked like. You find nothing. Likewise, when you do that, when you sort of dissect the body from the skin all the way to the marrow, you find no underlying self. So there is no self. Everything is non-self. Everything is, from body hair all the way to marrows, and they are all non-self. So that shows how we lump ourselves and then just conveniently call I, but actually that when the I is investigated, they call objects of refutation. What it is trying to do is that there is no I that independently exists. That independently exists when you investigate it. When you investigate it. So the example of peeling of the banana, or peeling a tangerine, or dismantling a wheel with a rim and a spoke, and nuts and bolts and axles, and all. When you dismantle the whole thing, there is no wheel. Everything is non-wheel. It's a metal, maybe a piece of streak, a piece of wood, or various other things. It's got all kinds of other things, but the actual wheel is not there. So likewise, this wisdom, Shantideva, even if you practice loving kindness, altruism, and do all sorts of amazing things to somebody, in your everyday work you do a lot of things, it's important that what you did do to a good cause is like a wheel, Maybe you brought quite a lot of the things, but all the wood that you made the wheel from came from the timber and so on, and the nuts and bolts were imported from Vietnam or whatever. You try to think like that. Yeah, you assemble all them put together, but actually the things that actually comprise itself is not independently that itself we think it is. With this, then you also do not get attached to what you did, and also you develop compassion to others who are attached to such things. Then you can see how their suffering is manufactured by this clinging, that there is independently existing will, that is not dependent on the little spokes and little bits and pieces, and they don't see all these other articles. Alas, by not seeing these, beings get trapped by the deed or by attachment to this deed. Or even if somebody threw a stick on you and it landed on your head and it hurt you, if you realize this, you can dismantle it. The stick land on your head, a little bump there, a lump there, but you can actually not get hurt by it. Oh, yeah, there's a lump there. I mean, you get a lump from many things. So maybe this will be a useful lump that will wake us up. Is it because his hurling of the stick? Oh, myself being in the wrong place. Yeah, myself being in the wrong place, yeah. So actually, therefore, there's not sufficient resentment to him that he is the perpetrator. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Why we talk about emptiness, not just philosophically everything's empty or like that. Actually, we have to try to how to empty the problem that we usually are really struggling. We don't know what to do. We get completely seized by this trap. We don't know how to use these, heal the banana tree. Yeah?
Is there any truth, or are there multiple truths, or no truth?
There is a relative truth and ultimate truth. The relative truth is multiple truth. Relative truth is multiple truth because he would say that one thing, I say with that, and a few people will have different. There's a multiple truth. To everybody, that's relatively correct because that's from their point of view, that is their version. So that's the relative truth. Your question is very good. And ultimately, there is no truth except to the wisdom discerning wise beings. They see, deluded beings. They're suffering because they think their perception is the only truth. And they don't see the whole picture. They don't see all the other factors that has contributed to these factors. And not seeing these, they become more sort of fundamentalist about their view as the only truth, And this is why all the sufferings are created, alas. So the wise bodhisattvas who realize this, who have this perfection of wisdom, the perfection of wisdom is only in the minds of those who have this merit to see this. But this perfection of wisdom discerning mind also sees the relative truth of this person or that person or that person. But at the same time, he sees how uniformly they are all wrong. Uniformly, they're all right from their own point of view, but from ultimate point of view, they're all wrong. And because of that, the one who knows the perfection of wisdom then develop compassion. Develop compassion to those who are therefore very fundamentalist about their view, their truth being the only truth. So therefore, all the relative truths, all the relative truths are multiple truth. All the multiple truth, why there are multiplicity of the truth, is because they're all tainted by their own karma, their perception, their afflictions. Therefore, they see in the glass of water many things. They see nectar in it, they see molten bronze in it, they see burning lava in it, they see water to quench the thirst in it. They see different things. But the wisdom discerning mind don't see any of that. How these things are all constructed by their individual set of karma or habits or their perception, and they're clinging to the view as being correct.
Explain it in terms of valid relative truth and invalid relative truth.
Well, that is what the truth means. Multiple truth means they're all valid from his or her point of view, but they are not valid to others, So what they call a correct relative truth is like if we say what is this, everybody will say glass. That's correct relative truth. Correct in the sense because we are all been introduced. We all have been introduced to subscribe to this. This is glass, And they say, what? This is glass? Yeah, this one glass. Okay, we just have to give in. So we have given up one time to agree this is glass. Anybody who has never seen a glass before, for them to insist that they would not see the identical because they have not subscribed to that. So correct relative truth is correct only for us to see this as a glass, but the correct relative truth is only relative truth. But ultimately, it is not. It is deceptive truth. That's called relative truth. Is called deceptive truth. It deceives people thinking that is the truth, and that is relative truth. Yes, but they think it's ultimate. They think that is the ultimate truth. They don't think it's only relative. You see, if they all accept as a relative, there's no argument, you know. But they all think it is ultimate. So that's why all the world religions or others say this is our way and that's it. They see that their way is the only way. And if they say, for us this is the way, but for others it will be different. So they are actually quite open-ended in terms of allowing other people to have their own point of view, what is truth, what is good or what is bad or what is... So because they are those who are subscriber to one religious beliefs, to them that is the truth, you know, because they're subscribing to those conventions. So it's called invalid because if you scrutinize that truth carefully, it's only from that point of view. It can be perceived that way, but if you really scrutinize carefully, it is made out of many, many factors they themselves subscribe to, which therefore what we call it's dependently, whatever is dependently originated phenomena, it is not independently existing. So therefore they are invalid because they think it's independently existing truth. They don't realize it's only dependent, it's only relative. If this is a tall glass, they don't realize this tall glass is tall not because it is tall, but because it's got a shorter one next to it. You know. So therefore, this is only tall in relative to this glass, but this glass itself is neither tall or short, unless there is something else to compare it to. So therefore, it's only dependent. You know, you're only 5, or you're only 6, or you're only 7, or your house number is 12 because there's another 11 houses. No, if your house is only one, you don't call my house number is 13. So if there are no houses, there's no number. It's only my house. You can call it. That will be the case. So that's why how phenomena are labeled and designated. Whatever is labeled and designated is relative. It's a relative, what is called valid relative truth. But it's if from the point of view of the practitioners, it's not valid. It is invalid. Therefore, it's called deceptive truth. It's a truth to the ordinary, thinking it's the real. It is deceiving. How they're deceiving to see the truth is only seen by the wise ones. Oh, they call that. Yeah, they call that. Yeah. So because the deceptive truth is the relative. Ordinary beings don't call it deceptive truth. That's it. That is the truth. Why the word deceptive truth is used? The truth because ordinary people think that is the ultimate truth. Deceptive because wise people know that they're clinging to that as the only truth, deceives them from knowing that it is not. So ultimate truth is not within the domain or within the range of the deluded mind until one is able to peel off the banana tree. And then see no banana tree in any of the parts. Until the banana tree was peeled off and dismantled, there was a truly existing banana tree. What if the earth gave up and banana tree was allowed to stay suspended in the air? You don't even have to peel. You don't even have to peel the banana tree. They don't realize much of the treeness of that banana tree is the earth that is supporting the banana tree, isn't it? So that is what we're talking about, deceptive truth. It's a truth because they don't realize, they think that is the ultimate truth. It is deceptive because deceptiveness of the truth is not seen by those who are deceived. It's only those who have the wisdom eye sees its deceptive truth. The ultimate truth seers do not look at the different banana tree. They look at the banana tree and see no tree in it. They don't have to have the earth to give up first. They don't see any banana. It's just a merely designated label, and human beings therefore see it as conventionally true. It's conventionally true, conventionally true. Therefore, all conventional people will call it tree. Therefore, therefore it is called multiple. There will be many people who agrees that is a banana tree here.
Just you could say that the validity is in the usability of it, like bananas edible, water's drinkable. We all agree to that. That's the validity of the usability of the relative truth.
Human function, yeah, but that's only relative.
Yeah.
That is still relative. There's nothing wrong thinking that this is a tree or this is a box, but when they don't see the box is just a concept, but actually the thing that is the box is labeled to is not box from its own side. From its own side, banana tree has no function to the banana. Banana tree has no function to the banana tree, Banana tree has only function to those who are not banana. So therefore, it is not independently banana tree. Banana tree has no independent banana tree function. It's only us. You see, it's talking about lack of inherent existing. It's not talking about functionality. Talking about lack of inherent function to the banana tree by the banana tree. And so when you know that, then we are able to learn to disaggregate, like peeling of the banana tree. We could say your failure or your success, your wonderful accomplishment. If you look at wonderful accomplishment, you see, it's multitude of wonderful help from so many people that never are mentioned even. It's their kind of contribution made this person to do that. And so therefore a wise person will not claim that as his or her. And in this deceptive truth, deluded world, people think it's them who's the number one. And they don't realize that 10 or 9 people who they defeated is part of them. It's at the expense of them he became number one. So there isn't any independent, if the person is the fastest, he can run against himself, He can run against himself, and who will give him the fastest title? Nobody will. It's only relative to how many people are racing with him. And when? They're all at the same time? No, I want to start 4 a.m. No, everybody must start at the same time. See, only relative. There should be few or more than one to race. So 4 or 5 or 6 or other people who race with the person is part of the you becoming number one. There is no one that is independently from himself that is one. This is very functional in terms of how we should use our mind to meditate on the emptiness, non-attachment. Emptiness also empowers to practice non-attachment to success. Okay, to achievement or whatever, you can see this. This grasping to this as I'm genius. I did all myself. This is a cause of suffering. This is why the Buddhas are saying that you should practice compassion with wisdom. Without this wisdom, even compassion become cause of poison. It's become poisonous compassion. It just eats you from within. So that's why this wisdom, discerning this, there is no underlying self, let alone an independently existing self. You know, there's no underlying self. Next one. Lydia, do you want to take
No, I
that?
don't have the text.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah, we ran out. That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are we
75.
75. If beings, you will say, have no existence, who will be the object of compassion? Those whom ignorance imputes and vows to save, intending thus to gain the lofty goal.
So this verse number 75 is an objection. An objection to the idea of having, have no self has no existence. So this is true here. So first, the objection from other schools. His Holiness Dalai Lama's commentary reads: "Now, when one seeks the designated object, the self is not to be found, as we talked about with the banana tree. The term self, person, and individual are equivalent, and the entity so designated is not to be identified. One cultivates compassion by reflecting. People wish to be free from suffering, yet they are in pain. Might they be free from misery? But if the person for whom one feels compassion is not to be found, to whom is the compassion directed?" So that is the objection. Now, to respond to that, His Holiness quotes another verse from elsewhere. He says, "As is stated in the Jewel Garland, due to ignorance as the cause, tainted actions are performed, and beneficial and detrimental results follow. That ignorance is not to be denied, for it yields both benefit and harm. Sentient beings are not identifiable by analysis, but without such examination, they evidently engage in action and experience their pleasant and painful results." So it's not, relatively there is sentient beings who create karma and who experience results, because they're not able to see the emptiness of past performers, and therefore they reap the results, thinking they are that. One must acknowledge the explanation of the effects that ensues from ignorance. However, one does not assert them as truly existing. Yeah, the karma is not truly existing, it is interdependently existing. So, they exist merely by force of convention without examination or analysis. When we don't scrutinize it, it's one thing. The delusion that is referred to above does not refer to grasping onto true existing. Rather, it refers to delusion as it is popularly conceived, entailing no examination or any carrying out about any analysis. This is just complete negligence. There do exist sentient beings who give up help and inflict pain, When saying that they exist only conventionally, the meaning is that they are not found under analysis. Yeah, on the relative level, yes, sentient beings are there to practice compassion too. But of course, enlightened beings practice two levels. One, they dispense compassion to those beings who don't understand that. But from them, their own point of view, of course, they don't see any sentient being. But of course, nobody can understand that, so they just keep his mouth shut. Just for myself. So there's no really hardship to practice compassion, is there? No, really, not really. So what's so difficult to practice compassion? There's no sentient being that is so demanding. There's no truly existing sentient beings. But because sentient beings don't understand that, so the Buddhists also see the plight of sentient beings. Because their purpose of not retiring in nirvana is because the sentient beings are so thick that they don't understand that. Therefore, they have to come out. But otherwise, half the time, the enlightened beings are just smiling. This is nothing. Because they don't really see that even sentient being. They say even compassion. They say even confession. They say confession is very important virtue that turns bad karma into good karma. That's a relative level, yeah? But the highest compassion is meditating on the emptiness of the misdeeds that exist from its own side, you know? Now, this is not a cop-out or just a license to deny there is a cause and effect, you know? Because so you can practice compassion. Why? Majority sentient beings don't understand this. And they don't even think about needing analysis. And so that's why even more Bodhisattvas, due to the greatness of compassion, they don't retire in emptiness and pretend that there are no sentient beings that are not suffering. Sentient beings are obviously suffering, and then they need to be dispensed with active compassion. And without that, we could not be promoted to practice compassion in the first place. You know, we are taught to practice compassion first, and then practice meditation and emptiness to support that. So therefore, if you say there is no sentient beings to practice compassion to, then it will be denied. Then it will be nihilism. So that's why this teaching is not about emptiness of nothing, but emptiness of inherent existence. So therefore, existence of dependent origination. Sentient beings does suffer due to many causes and conditions, and they will not understand if you say everything's empty. So you have to, therefore, spoon feed them. You have to sugarcoat them. You have to give them some things. And now once they start enjoying the practice or whatever, then you slowly tell them, I suppose, by the way, it's nothing. But them, you know, it's like, of course, this level of emptiness is, they say, difficult to fathom. And I'm not pretending that I understand either. But if you keep thinking and converse, have this dialogue with yourself, or monologue with yourself, I don't know whether it's two or one talking to each other. If there's none, it's non-log, I think. Non-logging. New non-logging. Who can listen who? So it's a non-logging, really. Yeah. So that which does exist so by force of convention as a name, and it is deceptive like an illusion. Its existence is established by deceptive but nevertheless verifying cognition. There is no way to establish the existence of anything unless one refrains from examination and analysis. So as soon as you use the analysis, then you can establish existence or lack of inherent existence, you know. However, it is necessary to draw a distinction between a person who appears in a dream and one who is encountered when one is awake. You know, one you met, maybe this is supposed to be awake. You know, we are seeing each other, and the people we see in dream. You know, they are similar insofar as both are not truly existent. This is really good. So it only says that they are both are similar in terms of appearances, but they are also both similar in non-existence. But if the former is designated as a person, this is repudiated by the other conventional cognition. So we say that the dream is not real and the real wakeful experience are real, you know. So we call what we call valid relative truth and invalid relative truth. That's correct. If the latter is designated as a person, this is not contradicted by such cognition, nor is it repudiated by ultimate analysis. Ultimately, they don't distinguish between air and air. Both are empty. You know? So, thus such being exists conventionally as a person. If something is not repudiated by other conventional cognition, nor by its ultimate analysis, it may be asserted to exist. But there's nothing that exists on its own. There's no such mode of existence. So mode of reality, when you witness the mode of reality, both the person you see in the dream and both the person you see in wake are similar. One is conditioned by sleep, other is conditioned by convention. So they're both conventions. Ultimately, they're both non-existing, you know. So if you understand that, what it means is that sometimes we do see one is being real, other being not real, you know. And it's only on the level of kind of a cognition and a level of accepted norms, accepted conventions to some people. If nobody knows about it, that's a different thing. If people knows about the difference between a dream and in wakeful experiences, then you can talk about it. But otherwise, when we're talking now, we think this is not dream, you know. We think this is not dream. This is Tuesday night class. We are not doubting it. That's the strange thing about that is we are not willing or needing to use ultimate analysis of that. Maybe it's Monday, you know. you know, some places it's still Monday, you know. and daytime, and so on. Yeah. So. Okay. Next verse.
76.
Yes.
Since beings are no more, you ask, who gains the fruit? It's true, the aspirations made in ignorance, but for the total vanquishing of sorrow, the goal which ignorance conceives should not be spurned.
Good. So this again now, this Madhyamika philosopher is now assuming that your opponent asked this question. He says there is no sentient being. Who is the goal? You know, who's is the goal? You know, to have a goal, there must be someone who has a goal. You know, who we grant that such desire for liberation is indeed delusive. Still, in order to eradicate suffering, effective delusion, whose result is not prevented. So this is somewhat objection from the opponent. He says, if sentient beings do not exist, who is it that attains the fruition of a spiritual path of awakening? This is very good because in the Heart Sutra says there's no path, there's no gain, there's so on. There is no one who really gains it. So the response to this, is sentient beings do exist. It is for them that compassion is felt, and compassion is cultivated by existing people. Whatever is designated by delusion is to be acknowledged, because sentient beings are delusions, and so therefore compassion is directed to those beings who have delusion and do not cope themselves well how to undo the delusions. So that deludedness of sentient beings is a real issue. Due to cultivating compassion on the spiritual path, because we practice compassion, not because we have compassion, but because they are deluded beings. Therefore, even our compassion is not independently existing. You need deluded sentient beings to instigate compassion in your mind. Usually, we have this aversion to beings who are deluded, who do things that we don't like. We think they are a bit of an obstacle to our progress or practice. But actually, without the domain of sentient beings who are deluded, we could not practice compassion. You know, even if we have compassion, we just learned a lot. We read a lot of books about how to practice compassion, but we still haven't practiced it because everybody is compassionate to you. So you don't know how to practice compassion too. So if deluded sentient beings are the instigators of your compassion. So this suggests your compassion is not independently, unitarily, and permanently existing. So by cultivating compassion, fruition of awakening is attained. But who attains? This is the question. Who attains? That too is to be established conventionally. Only conventionally we say someone attains it, but ultimately that's not the issue. Without ultimate examination or analysis, it's only we're talking about relatively who attains it. Yeah, only relatively who attains we talk about. Ultimately, we are not asking who attains it. We already said there was no self in the first place. Don't you remember that? So Shantideva says, we talked about that already, just in case you don't remember. So only on a conventional level, yes. In order to pacify the sufferings of other sentient beings, impure appearances that arise due to ignorance are not to be rejected. You can't say that sentient beings' delusions are wrong and it's their fault, that's independently their fault, and they got to look after themselves. But their impure perception or their sufferings should not be rejected. Their suffering should be utilized until they know there is no suffering. Because the purpose is to actually see not only the goal is not so much to get rid of suffering, but to realize lack of inherent existing suffering. How do you get to realize lack of inherent existence of suffering? Lack of inherent existence of self. If the lack of inherent existence of self is established, then there is lack of inherent existing suffering. So even compassion is not so much, giving a free ride to them so much, but actually making them to see there is no suffering that inherently exists. Ultimately speaking, yeah? And so this moves on. Next verse. Yeah? 77.
The source of sorrow is the cry of saying I, fostered and increased by false belief in self. To this you may say that there is no readiness, but meditation on no self will be the superior way.
Yes. Now that's a very profound. It's saying that grasping onto I or self, which is the cause of suffering, is strengthened due to the delusion, thinking I am my name or body or whatever it is. You may think that you cannot get rid of that delusion. Meditation or selflessness is, meditation on selflessness is the very remedy, very remedy, because it's the source of the sorrow is the pride of saying I. It's meaning clinging to the I, source of sorrow. That's the origin, true origin, the origin of sorrow. And usually people don't know that is the source of the sorrow, clinging to the I. So, and fostered and increased by false belief in self. And it's almost enhanced by the belief, which is actually wrong, in the idea of me and I, that is name, that is gender, that is your ability or skill or status or loss of it or whatever it is. People suffer because they're propped up by false facts, yeah. And there is not a single fact that is that is valid to authenticate self. So we may think there is no remedy for that. But meditation on no self is the highest way. So what is the meditation on no self? So then one look inwardly. Maybe you can do that. And where is this I? You know. And so then go to the notion of what I is. If you're talking about the I as a body, or I, what are you just from the outermost part of the body, all the way, you try to meditate. Meditate means pay attention to the lack of self in the skin. If lack of self in the bone, because bone self looks like one, but there are many bones, you know. So you can see the lack of self in the bone, on the skin, and the flesh, and the muscle, and so on. And so that's meditation on no self on a form aggregate. Yeah? And then meditation on the no self with feeling aggregate, feeling of joy or sadness or indifference or laziness or enthusiasm. So that if you really look at yourself identifying with one feeling, you know, just see how long does that feeling last. You know, does it have any feeling that it was previously that left that and became this, or it has been always that feeling? You know, so there isn't a permanent, truly existing feeling that is identical to I. You know. There is no I in the feeling, let alone of the feeling, of the I. There is no, we can say it's my feeling, but let's say this feeling is called, and where's the mind? Who's the possessor? Let's go and find the possessor. Yeah. You can't have a possession without a possessor. You know, so you have feeling, but who's the you? Who's the I that has the feeling, you know? Then you say, you can may say I, but there's still we haven't really found what the I is, you know. So, and therefore, when it says meditation on no self in the feeling is the supreme way to meditate on the emptiness of feeling, because people are drowned in the feeling. Or feeling low, feeling not so good, or not important, or not having this, not having done this. All people drowned in the feeling without contrasting the self and the feeling. This is the meditation on emptiness. This is not about when we talk about some schools or heretic views, this is not a heretic in India. The 8th century heretics are not here, we are talking. It's a heretic in here that grasp as there is an innately existing I. That is the heretic that Shantideva is trying to refute. The wrong view, the fundamentalist I grasping mind is trying to refute that. And meditation, meaning you should sit there long until you really have a good resolution, you know, almost until you really hatch the egg. You don't sit there just to say, I sit there every day. Until you sit there, that there is no self in that feeling. And then feel pity to sentient beings who are drowned in the feelings. And then develop real bodhicitta, real compassion. So it's not the emptiness of nihilism it is promoting, not whatsoever. It's exactly opposite. It is promoting sentient beings who are concretely creating suffering by thinking that something is truly existing. So because in order to educate them who are suffering from grasping truly exists, we have to tell them something is not truly existing. So it looks like nihilism we are promoting. But actually no, we are saying neither is true. Neither is true. We are not teaching nihilism. That's why most people misunderstand Buddhism. They think it's very, very, very nihilism, very denying or whatever it is. But this is how our middle way is hard to understand, because you have to have a lot of faith and merit to fathom, to comprehend, and to really get it. They say if you get this understanding of no self, it is the one that will shred your samsara. Sipa Hrubal Shiva, that which can shred the samsara of suffering of whatever it is, then you are really like a sword. The sword that you don't have to brandish, but just hold. You don't have to penetrate or hit anybody, but just hold. This awareness that there is no truly existing self. What am I really worried about? And so it's some people straight away go like this when they heard that, when they understood emptiness. They just have a bit of a shock, It shakes people. It makes them to feel as if their ground fell apart. And as a result of that, most of the problems seems like a pardonable, forgivable, yes?
To be truly connected then, don't we need to continue suffering? If you get beyond suffering, how do you still be part?
We are not trying to go beyond suffering. That's exactly opposite. We were saying, due to the greatness of wisdom, you don't go beyond sorrow. But due to the greatness of compassion, you stay connected with the sufferings. That's why you always stay connected with suffering beings who don't know these things. And not you stay with sentient beings connected. Because you yourself is not going to be soiled by the sufferings, because they are not truly existing sufferings, and you don't have a grasping to them as such. And so you don't have to escape from suffering that doesn't burn you. So therefore, we should stay connected with sentient beings who are not have a sign of beginning of getting this. So we have a long haul. We are here for a long haul. So there's no rush to get into nirvana or anywhere else or at all. This is whole principle Mahayana is no abiding in nirvana, please. Why? Because the whole samsara is on fire. And how could you possibly just go and put your feet up in the lounge room of Sukhavati? How could you possibly do that? And therefore, this very wisdom chapter is so that we do not stay disconnected, but connected with the suffering. And that's why the whole lotus flower analogy. You grow in the mud and water, but you're not soiled by them. But you beautify the water and the mud. And so in spite of the sort of endless sufferings of sentient beings, we still stay where there is suffering. It's suffering that teaches us to practice real dharma, real compassion. It is the compassion that teaches us to practice real wisdom. It is both of these that makes us useful, even in samsara. Without compassion, wisdom, even nirvana is not the goal. So nirvana is not something you go to and then leave it behind. And nirvana is a wisdom discerning mind allows you to transcend from the suffering yourself because of lack of clinging and grasping. But when you switch your mind to see the plight of other sentient beings, you see they are exactly on the opposite. So therefore you have to stay connected. How many people have vowed, taken the vow of Bodhisattva, and then actually understand this, that it is not so much to get rid of, quickly reach enlightenment for oneself. Even reaching enlightenment is not the purpose of it. Even reaching enlightenment is so that one can stay more readily and serve the sentient beings. With not the kind of compassion with which most sentient beings get fatigued by, but compassion in essence with wisdom discerning emptiness. So this wisdom chapter is sort of empowering us, boosting us to have this understanding and comprehension, and then try to play the role of being useful in meditating on no self, but still practicing whatever you have to do, nursing or caring or supporting or listening or whatever you do, whatever you do, but you do it with the no hazard to the self. There's no hazard for the self there because there's no self there. There's no inherently existing self there. When usually we get tired or we are really calculative about the time we do and how many things we do, when we are clinging and grasping to the self, then there's no self. There's selfishness. There's always preserving mentality is usually the kind of spearhead. It's that which spearheads is self-preservation, self-importance. So here, the no self will be the supreme way. No self is not a kind of just ontological understanding. You have to behave selflessly. Behave selflessly, and that is the supreme way. Behave selflessly and meditate on the emptiness of it. Meditate on the emptiness of it. But a lot of people do selfless things, but in the meantime, their body is still become self. And then they say, my body hurts because of by doing this for these people or whatever. And then they identify themselves with the body, and then they suffer the aggregates, and then they didn't meditate on the supreme way of no self. They became again the body. Again, their body fell into the body. Again, they fell to the feeling. They fell to the perception. They fell to the perception as self. perception as a perceived. If you see the perception as not real, it's no problem. If your perception as a self as truly existing, then there's a problem. So. Perception is not the problem. It's the clinging. And they have a saying in Lamdre, Nangwe Meijing Xianbei Qing, means it's not the perception that binds you, it's clinging to it does. So the emptiness of perception means you have to have perception to meditate on emptiness of it. Because otherwise, no perception would be the perfect thing. No perception must be a perception too. Because, no perception also is a perception. So you have to have perception. Test is whether you cling to it or not. So non-clinging is when it says supreme way is no self, is the supreme way. Meditation in the perception, in the volition, in the effort that you put in, you must meditate on the emptiness of self in it. Emptiness of truly independent existence. It doesn't mean emptiness of anything. There are many things. Yeah, banana tree, when you peel it off, there are many things, but not banana tree. There's just peel, skin, or some loose juice, or some liquid, some things. But yeah, by the time you do all of that, there is an independently existing banana tree. Likewise, one needs to do the meditation on no self. Even say somebody praise you, Not to mention if somebody really attacked you, or somebody just ignores you, whatever it does, Of course, we maybe it is social etiquette to acknowledge if they're really being taught, if they're very courteous to you. You also say courteous. You also be the. You also have to play the PR game. You also say thank you. You're so gracious. But I can see this kind of half-heartedness, not to them, of course, but to you. It's not so important, really that they were, even if they were really rude to you, it's maybe good for you to realize practice no self, Maybe that's much better, It's when they're really rude to you. That's Bodhisattvas are praying for that, actually. They really are other people to give them a fairly harsh treatment. Then they might have a chance to give a try to practice self-meditation. Because it's the supreme meditation, remember? So supreme meditation should be used as as the remedy of all remedies. You don't employ remedy to no problems. You're enjoying the praise. It's not a problem for you, even though it's a deep problem. Even though it's a deep problem, but you don't think it's a problem at all, you see. One who has been cautioned by the danger of clinging, it's a deep problem. Praise is just as a deep problem as is criticism. Because both are opposite of the same coin. So when you're suffering, when you have to stay connected with sentient beings suffering, their suffering will impinge on you. Their suffering will be a bit too much for you. Then only your no self practice will be supreme. If you're not not affectable by other people's suffering, you're quite well cordoned off, and you just can see them occasionally. But otherwise, you just know how to work. We are avoiding suffering. So if you're avoiding suffering and wrongdoing of other people, you can't practice no self. And you might just become devas. Maybe that's the devas, devas or people who try to not think of other people and just become isolated, become individualists or solitary realizers. Yeah, there's some people will suit that mentality. We're not saying it's worse. It's just another way to go about. Okay. Okay, next please.
What we call the body is not feet or shins. The body likewise is not thigh or loins. It's not the belly nor indeed the back. And from the chest and arms the body is not formed.
Yeah, so that verse 78 actually now actually makes us to meditate, do the meditation on no self in the body. Yeah? Okay, sit up and just focus on that, What we call the body is not the feet. You got two, can be two. The shins, the knees, the thighs, the loin, and the belly, and the back, and the chest, and the lung, and the liver, and the arms, and the fingers. And likewise, the body is not the ribs or hands, armpits, shoulders, bowels, or entrails. It is not the head or throat, from none of these body is constituted. You might argue saying, it is, that is what is body. But what is Shantideva is making us to think is that without someone designating these things, even these are not body, you know. All of these things might be in the body, but we call dead body. You know, sometimes we call dead body, other we call body. So it's the designation. So the body is not body from its own side. Body is only body when it's designated, it's imputed. They call three things: imputed, dependent, and perfect. That which is imputed makes, or labeled, makes the body, not because body is body, but because it is imputed and labeled and conventionally accepted to be such, accepted as such. Huh? Like conventional doctors would say somebody's dead, even though their consciousness is still in the body. You know? And Buddhist thinks, it's like killing. It's like to move a person whose consciousness is still in the body may have shown the maybe decomposition of the gross elements of the body, so no outer breathing is there and so on. But still, we would not regard that as dead body. You know, why? Because the consciousness is still there. But those who do not know or detect the consciousness, they will call it dead. You know, there are a lot of people who near death, who had those and have resurrected and come alive. Who was thrown, who was put in the coffin and so on. They would all rose up. There are stories like that. So it's not that these are not body, but they are only body because if it's designated. So this designation is imputation, is what is really important. Like your name, like a child, baby is born, and the baby is born 2 hours ago is in the thing that the parents hasn't given. The nurses just have to mark it so make sure it doesn't get confused with the baby. You know? So until it's imputed, you wouldn't know it's yours. It's amazing. So only by imputing and labeling, you know, because it is not male or female from its own side, you know. We have to check whether there's something that called maleness of it. It's only a convention, you know, only a convention. They usually don't call it a boy or a girl. It's a baby. until they call it, and it's not, you know. So the label is very important. None of these body is constituted, meaning there isn't anything in the body that is body from its own side. That's what it's really talking about, yeah? From its own side, independently from its own side. If body, step by step, pervades and spreads itself throughout its members, its parts indeed are present in the parts. But where does the body itself abide? Yeah? Because everything is parts. But what it is part of? You can't find the of. You see the part, but you don't see the part of. It's just like saying, say Queensland is part of Australia. Okay, that's good. Good. Okay. New South is part of Australia. Okay, that's good. But by the time you have taken all the states, then which is part of which states? All the states are part of what? It's only when all of these are there, they go Australia. So no. So there's no Queensland that is part of Australia. There's Queensland that is part of New South Wales and all the others. So they are collectively given the name Australia. But if some small part of that is gone, then the whole itself is diminishing. The parts are increasing, the whole is diminishing and not findable. That's what it is talking about, yeah?
Like a synergy, you know, a synergy.
Yeah.
Which is the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
So is everything like a synergy? Like we're all connected, I guess, and atoms in the body are part of that. Like we're a Sangha,
Yeah.
but there is a part of the Sangha that is greater than.
Well, well, I think that's not disputed in the conventional sense. Yeah, of course, 5 is greater than 1, and so on, you know. But that's not that's quite a different way of looking. This is saying that there is no whole that is not made up of parts. So therefore, there's no independently existing whole or self other than parts. When you look at the parts, they are made out of body, feeling, emotion, and so on. There is no self that is the whole that is to be found. So when you are able to look at it, for instance, usually we are all of them dualistic. What is right and what is wrong, for instance. What is acceptable, what is unacceptable. But when you look from this point of view, there isn't anything that is right or wrong from its own side. You know, it's only when you look from this point of view or that point of view, and if you take all the different parts away, there isn't anything that is from its own side. You know, and so the point of dissecting the body in different parts is there is no body. Physical body that is self. And likewise, as it goes down, and later on it goes through sequentially to each of the 5 aggregates. Right now it's going through just the form aggregate in order to meditate on the meditation on no self. That is the body. And this is really, Shantideva is, when we are reading through about 10, 15 verses, one thing, but actually we should in our times focus on this idea and then meditate and then try to use it how it is a transcendental wisdom, how it transcends your problems, your feelings, your hurts, your aches, your upsets, and your detachment, your fear, your anxiety. This is what shredder of samsara. We have to not just see this as just a kind of concept, not just what Shantideva says, but what is the use of it? How do we employ it to shred our dualities, our samsaras, and our perceptions that is hurting us? We are holding our perception as whole, real. We don't realize that perception has parts. And so this has to be utilized. This has to be put to use, and then open, create this. Emptiness means openness. Try to open up a new kind of unfolding that hasn't occurred before. Because otherwise there's a stagnation. There's like a blockade from making any progress by this rigid grasping as one thing, as the only thing from its own side. We say, oh, that's him, he's like that. Oh, that's them, they are like that. Wrong view, no? Who says that? That perception says that. The person is not identical like that. We often, without thinking what we're saying, we say like that. So at those points of perception, we need to bring this meditation on ourselves and make it the supreme way, meaning it shred the samsara, it shred the suffering and its causes, which is the clinging to something as truly existing whole without parts. One more verse. Yeah.
What number?
No number. To help you, 81. To help you.
79.
81.
81, yeah.
81.
81?
81, yeah.
If body, single and entire, is present in the hand and other members, however many parts there are, the hand and all the rest, you'll find an equal quantity of bodies.
Yeah. That's a self-explanatory, isn't it? What it's saying is that there is if we identify a single with the entire, or one part is present in the other members, yeah. So that say I or self with any part, every part of the body, then it will be just as many parts as the body. There is I, you know. And so it is quite contradictory to the idea of unitarily existing I. So it therefore refutes the idea naturally that there is no one that is I, let alone many. You know, neither one nor many. They call it neither one nor many. The I is neither one nor many. I is not finite. I is not an infinite thing. I is not designatable. You know, other things are easily designated, and I is the designator of all things. So you will find equal quantity of bodies. So that's why when we have grasping to I and whole or parts, that's why even that are not our body, to which we are attached to as mine, like my finger or my hands, oh, don't do that to my hands or whatever, or don't do that to my backyard, or don't do that to my holiday house, then of course it's everywhere. It's extend as far as our I and mine exist. So our suffering extends to our property, to our friends, to our whoever, because of I clinging to them as mine, whether our parts. Because of that, the extension of the suffering become numerous. Why people have numerous suffering? Because they're objects of attachment, objects of aversion, are too numerous to do with the different parts of their own psychophysical organ that makes them conventionally as I or mine. And those who have, I would say, those who have no clinging to the idea of permanent or unitarily existing I, they say that even when they, like great practitioners, when they physically die, they don't suffer the same degree of the suffering the body usually shows the person inside it suffers. Their body is crumbling, their body is disintegrating, and they don't suffer with the disintegrating body, Why? Because they don't have this attachment to the body as I, and because of that, the body also is somewhat counter-influenced by the spirit. Almost the body, instead of showing the sign of decomposition, and body actually regains its luster and radiance and sit in deep meditative, post-meditative state, because there is no clinging to the body, any part of the body as I, But one probably sees the body as emptiness and therefore Buddha. Because Buddha is emptiness, not Buddha doesn't feel the form and senses. Because he's got no eye. Next verse.
If body is not outside or within its parts, how is it then residing in its members? And since it has no basis other than its parts, how can it be said to be at all?
Yes. It says it all. It says it all. It needs no description. Thus, there is no body in the limbs, but from illusion does the idea of body spring, to be affixed to a specific shape, just as when a scarecrow is mistaken for a man. So we have been scarecrowed already, scarecrowed all the time. Scarecrowed or a nice robot. Nice robot. We've been roboted. So I think these verses are all self-explanatory. So we read. As long as the conditions are assembled, a body will appear and seem to be a man. As long as all parts are likewise present, it's there that we will see a body. So because we will see a body, it says, we'll see a body. Because we have chosen, we have conventionally, we have created a convention to call it a body, and so therefore, it's talking about conventional existence. Likewise, since it is a group of fingers, the hand itself is not a single entity. Because of all the fingers, then it's called hand, I don't know, if there's no fingerless hand, we will call, I don't know, arm or something. Because you can't call fingerless hand a hand, Will you? See, there's no labeling base, Yeah, there's no labeling base. You have to label something that is not hand, parts of an arm, or maybe, The hand itself is not a single entity. And if it is there, we will be all running away from it. There was a hand in this room. We are not afraid of two hands hanging like this. We are afraid of single hand left on the room. Yeah, amazing. So that shows that only when this is hanging on this side is okay, If this is dropped and put it there, we will call 00 or whatever. Amazing, yeah? But when the two hands are hanging on the either side, we think it's quite normal. So it's all convention. That's what it's saying. Oh, it's only a convention. What isn't? And so it is with fingers made of joints. Yeah, not only hand made out of fingers, fingers made out of non-fingers. Fingers made out of joints. And joints themselves consist of non-joints. And tendons, and flesh, and ligaments, and all that. Yeah, so you slowly go like that. These parts themselves will break down into atoms. So this is why the quantum mechanics has some interesting comparison with Buddhism. And atoms will divide according to direction. Even atoms got direction. Atoms got a front, atoms got a back, atom got a bottom, atom got a left, atom got a side, And these fragments too will fall to nothing. Thus, atoms are like empty space. They have no real existence. Yeah. And so that's why how when you zoom, when you unzoom onto something, you see something different. When you zoom into something, even the thing doesn't exist. So, emptiness is just zooming practice. Zooming and unzooming. That's verse number 86, and we'll finish with 87. All form, this is a summation of the form aggregate. All form, therefore, is like a dream. A dream, you need to sleep, first of all. And you need a sleeper. there's no dream without sleeping, and there you have to have someone willing to sleep, and someone who falls asleep, and someone who will dream. It's totally conditioned, So therefore, even dream, so like that, even the hands or parts needs all the non-hands to be hands, non-fingers to be fingers, and who will be attached to it? Who thus investigates? Yeah. So attached to dream-like objects or dream-like ups and downs. He says, the body in this way has no existence. He's talking about who has no inherent existing, the existing I. Body is parts of non-bodies. Non-human body, non-fingers, non-hands in the fingers, and non-fingers in the fingers. And so there's nothing, that the hand doesn't exist in the body. Only finger exists in the body, but then the finger doesn't exist in the hand. There are joints and so on. What is male, therefore, and what is female? It's not from its own side. If a person is a truly existing female, society doesn't have to call him. He is female by physical, but he wants to be a male. We have heaps of people like that. So that shows they is not truly existing from physical body. They just have a need to think they are that. So that shows they are not what it appears. If society thinks he's boy, but he thinks no, he's not a boy. Society's got it wrong. Of course, he's got it wrong too, but he doesn't think the society. He doesn't know that he's got it wrong. He's got some kind of grasping to the idea that he's got to wear fingernails, got to wear high heels, even though it's not quite conventionally doable. But he does that. Amazing. See how the sentient beings create their own agony. So with that verse number 87, it stops to meditate on no self in the body. In the body, because we're talking, this is thorough meditation, remember? Shantideva just didn't write these randomly. If you study carefully, all these verses we read tonight, up to this 87, are how to meditate on no self as a supreme way in the body that you can't find self. And he goes systematically through all the remaining aggregates with the remaining chapter. So I think this is, of course, this is the gist of bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is try to practice relative bodhicitta in everyday life, but with this, in essence, it has to be this discerning mind, and then dispense act of bodhisattvic kindness and compassion without any clinging and grasping and rigidity, but nevertheless dispensing, spoon feeding, whatever is to the particular beings that best need to be served, but without any clinging to the object or clinging to the action as being some kind of quick fixer, but see that as an interdependent origination. Even if it doesn't work out at all, whatever you invest, whatever you gave, you don't have a heart attack. You don't have a disappointment. This is what it's talking about. This is talking about not seeing the body, the hand in the body in the hand, or and hand in the fingers. We may call, what I did didn't work, or maybe it's a failure. The society says that, but maybe for a bodhisattva, it's a great opportunity to grow. It's a disappointment. It's a upset backs. That is the suffering. That is the way we have to practice another level of compassion. That is in essence with the wisdom discerning emptiness. Then these emptiness teachings are not thought as some too hard or above my head, or people don't think. There's a lot of substance that we can use to create dexterity and flexibility in our minds, suppleness, if it's not already. So we will now do the extracted reading from Shantideva's. In the spiritual energy that relieves the anguish of beings in misery and depresses beings in internal joy, I lift up my heart and rejoice. In the goodness producing illumination, I lift up my heart and rejoice. I rejoice in the beings who have gained eternal liberation from suffering. I rejoice in those gained to Buddhahood, as well as those offering in noble bodhisattvas. In the ocean-like virtue of body-mind that brings the joy to those beings, and in accomplishing the well-being of others, I lift up my heart and rejoice. To the Buddhas of the 10 directions, I join my hands in respect. Let blaze the light of Dharma's truth for the beings lost in darkness. To the Buddhas considering parinirvana, I join my hands in prayer. Do not abandon the beings in sorrow, but remain to teach in countless ages. May any spiritual energy thus generated by my devotion to the enlightened ones be dedicated to dispelling the misery of living beings without exception. So as long as disease afflicts living beings, may I be the doctor, the medicine, and also the nurse who restore them to health. May I fall as rain to increase the harvest that must feed living beings. And in ages of dire famine, may I myself serve as food and drink. May I be an unending treasury for those desperate and forlorn. May I manifest what they require. I wish to... My body, every possession, all goodness, past, present, future, without remorse, I dedicate to the well-being of the world. Suffering is transcended by total surrender, and the mind attains to nirvana. And one day all must be given up. Why not dedicate now to universal happiness? My bodily powers I dedicate to the well-being of the lives. Should anyone wish to kill, abuse, or beat me, responsibility is purely their own. Should anyone wish to ridicule me and make me object of jest and scorn, why should I possibly care if I have dedicated myself to others? Let them do as they wish with me, so long as it does not harm them. May no one encounters me have an insignificant contact, regardless whether those who I meet respond towards me with anger or faith. May their mere act of meeting contribute to fulfillment of their wishes. May the slander, harm, and violent abuse that anyone should direct towards me act as cause of their enlightenment. May I be the protector to the helpless, guide to those traveling on the path, boat to those wishing to cross the ocean, or a bridge or a raft. May I be land for those requiring it, land for those in darkness. May I be a home for the homeless, a servant for the world. To fulfill the needs of beings, may I be a magic gem, the inexhaustible vase, mystic spell, cure medicine as wish-granting tree. May I act as a mighty earth, or like the tree, to provide space whereby all others may grow, until every being inflicted by pain has reached nirvana's shores. May I serve only as a condition that encourages progress and joy. Just as all previous Buddhas first gave rise to precious body-mind, and just then as carefully followed the stages of Bodhisattva's discipline, likewise for the sake of all sentient beings, do I now must generate the body-mind. Likewise will I train myself in the discipline of a Bodhisattva. They who are of wisdom have seized the supreme body-mind. Praise, glorify, and rejoice in it, that it may grow to fulfillment. From today I will reap the fruit of life, having well won the state of man. Today I am born in the Buddha family. Now I am child of the Buddhas. Thus in future I shall take every effort to live in accord with the Bodhisattva's ways. Never should I act with would bring shame to the noble, faultless family. Like a blind man fumbling a goblet, happens to find a rare and precious gem. Likewise, I have discovered the jewel of precious body mine. Thus was found the supreme ambrosia to dispel the load of death, the destroyer of life, an inexhaustible treasure able to cure the poverty of all sentient beings. It is the highest medicine to curl of hills of living, and is tree giving shade to those wandering in the path of life. It's a strong and mighty bridge by which wings cross the misery. It is a moon to shine the minds, to clear away the pains of delusion. The body-mind is the great radiant sun to disperse the darkness unknowing. It is the very essence of butters gained from churning the milks of Dharma. For all guests on the roads of life who would take the very subsistence of joy. Here is the actual seed of true happiness, a veritable feast to satiate the world. Thus today, in the presence of all awakened ones, I invite every living being to this festival, giving both immediate and lasting joy. May the gods and all others rejoice. Thank you.